Good morning, everyone. For teleSUR, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We're going to begin this morning in Peru, where conflicts between indigenous people from the Amazon and transnational companies have escalated. Now, as our correspondent Romero reports, some tribes have brought company operations to a halt.
Nuestros niños están naciendo sin brazos. Creemos acá en Lima que esto no nos va a pasar.
A protest took place in Lima this Tuesday in support of a coalition of indigenous tribes from the Peruvian Amazon who have paralyzed the operations in their ancestral homelands of the transnational oil company Plus Petrol since Monday, January 26th. The stoppage includes 14 wells that produce 3,100 barrels of oil per day.
The reason we are here is to support the indigenous people against the exploitation of oil companies, for there to be no more pollution and for dialogue and agreement so that this does not continue.
According to Juan Carlos Ruiz, a legal expert on indigenous issues, the fact that indigenous people from the basins of 4 rivers are united in the same struggle is a sign that there is a growing change in regards to how indigenous citizens see and deal with the state.
I believe that the fact that 4 groups got together and want to negotiate with the state is ultimately changing people's perceptions. Instead of seeing indigenous people as victims and collateral damage, they are being perceived as people with rights and as having the capacity to negotiate with the state.
In a written statement, Plus Petrol responded that they are also concerned about indigenous issues and the environment. However, Ruiz believes that the legal case against the land concessions to Plus Petrol is strong, since locals can argue that their fundamental right to being consulted on what to do with their territories was violated. Such violation trumps any previous agreement, according to the Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention of the United Nations. Reporting from Lima, Peru for teleSUR, Rael Mora.
And thanks to Rael. In Argentina, Congress there has begun debating reforms to the nation's intelligence system. The debate comes without the presence of opposition MPS, which has chosen to stay out of the debate. Now, for why the party decided to boycott the discussion, here's our correspondent Leo Poblete.
The legislative process for the intelligence reform bill began in the Senate this Tuesday in a plenary of the Committees on Constitutional Affairs and Justice and Criminal Matters, with the presence of the Legal and Technical Secretary of the Presidency, Carlos Zanini, and the maximum authorities of the Secretariat of Intelligence, in the presence of the ruling party senators and the empty chairs of the opposition.
We deeply regret the fact that we have empty chairs here, because we understand that institutions are defended with debate, discussion, and being active in them. Sometimes we hear talk from some sectors who say they are concerned about institutions, but when it comes to guaranteeing that those institutions work, they make every effort to ensure that those institutions do not work.
The leaders of the opposition blocs today decided not to attend the plenary on the grounds that it is a measure to divert the focus of the investigation into the death of federal prosecutor Alberto Nisman.
Is this a debate that we should have? Yes. Should the intelligence services be improved? Yes. Haven't we all opposed the actual functioning of the intelligence services? We have. But let's debate in an appropriate context and with the depth issues like this deserve, and not at the imposition by the majority, as is always done.
The Legal and Technical Secretary of the Presidency clarified that what the government seeks with the new intelligence law is to improve and move forward on the back of what's already been built.
We do not come to abolish or criticize the law and intelligence currently in place. We come with the intention to improve it. What does this mean? It means that we are not destroying anything to give way to something new. We are moving forward on what's already been built, using the experience that has accumulated in recent years of democracy in Argentina.
The plenary of the commissions will continue on Wednesday, when human rights organisations will attend to present their views on the bill. From Buenos Aires, Leo Poblete, teleSUR.
And thanks to Leo, parents of 2 of the 43 students who went missing from Iguala, Mexico, attended a session of the UN Committee on Forced Disappearances. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto announced last week that the 43 students were killed on the orders of a drug cartel after being mistaken for a rival gang. The mayor of Iguala and his wife have been arrested in connection to the case. But parents of the missing youth don't believe government officials and demand a proper investigation. And to Ukraine, where protesters tried to storm the government headquarters of Petro Poroshenko in Kiev. Protesters demand that the country's armed forces not be run from the presidency, but instead by the military. They also call for the resignation of the Minister of Defense. The police stopped protesters from getting into the building. The protests also rejected the airstrikes that Ukraine has launched against the self-proclaimed independent republics. Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras called Europe's austerity, quote, disastrous during a joint press conference with the Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi yesterday. Renzi agreed that focus needs to shift from austerity to growth, saying that development cannot be built on deficit.
We must convince Europe to talk more about growth rather than austerity. It's correct to keep the balance under control. Alexis said that about deficit. You can't build an outlook of development or deficit because that's going to be paid by our future generations.
Jordanians have called for a mass march to demand their country leave the U.S.-led coalition that is supposedly fighting the Islamic State group. Hundreds of Jordanians marched yesterday after the IS released a video allegedly showing them burning a Jordanian pilot alive. The IS claims the action was a response to the country's involvement with the U.S. We end in Central America, where the head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, announced yesterday the martyrdom of former Archbishop of San Salvador, Oscar Arnulfo Romero. The move is expected to pave the way for possible sainthood, the first in the region. With more, here's Gerardo Torres.
Oscar Arnulfo Romero was the Catholic Archbishop of San Salvador when he was shot dead in 1980. Romero is known in Central America as the voice of the voiceless for all the support he gave to rebel forces that fought against a military dictatorship during the worst days of the Civil War. As the head of the Salvadorian Church, he accused the regime of the murder of priests, teachers, and hundreds of citizens. Pope Francis has approved a martyrdom declaration to set the stage for the beatification of Romero.
This is very important because people will be more devoted. It is a joy that the Pope is visiting us. People already believe in Romero and ask him for favors or miracles.
The declaration of a Central American as a martyr is a historical event in the region. Some believe it will give added strength to the Catholic Church, which has seen declining numbers in the recent decades. Others believe that it is also a political message which will strengthen the Catholic left, which Romero was a symbol of. Gerardo Torres, teleSUR, Central America.
Thanks to Gerardo. That's where we ended today. Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For teleSUR English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.